You did not arrive here by accident. Something precise in the quantum field recognized your signature and turned you toward this moment. You feel it like a soft click behind the ribs, a subtle coherence forming where static once lived. The message finds you because you emit the pattern it answers, and so it follows the line of morphic resonance back to its source, your awareness. You are not merely listening, you are being located by a signal that knows the geometry of your attention. You have heard many names for this: synchronicity, guidance, fate, but in truth it is the observer loop revealing itself. You attend, the field attends back. Your focus braids with reality's probabilities, and a channel opens between what you think you are and what the cosmos knows you to be. With each breath, interference fades. With each breath, information becomes form. Let your shoulders drop, not as a ritual of obedience, but as a permission slip to the nervous system. The frequency that led you here is not outside you. It is the remembered cadence of your original clarity. You recognize it because it once taught your cells how to listen to light. Even now, microcurrents of calm begin threading through the body, like silver rivers establishing new routes for intelligence to flow. This is not imagination. This is the somatic language of awakening. Notice how time feels different in this noticing. Edges blur. Past and future lean closer, as if both are drawn by the gravity of a single luminous decision. In that gravity, the particles of your life organize themselves without force. What you once chased begins to circle back, curious, obedient to a deeper blueprint. The channel opens further. Between mind and matter there is no wall, only membranes of habit. They thin when you stop arguing with the exact experience you're having. They dissolve when you allow meaning to arrive before explanation. The membrane is dissolving now. Your senses grow quiet, then bright. Your field listens. You have always been entangled with a wider intelligence, but tonight, the entanglement becomes conscious. Signals pass cleanly. Old noise releases its claim. The subtle tug you feel at the base of the skull, the warmth gathering at the sternum, the delicate prickle along the arms, these are not random sensations. They are the body registering a phase transition. The moment vapor becomes rain. Allow the rain. Let it touch memory first, washing the dust from rooms you stopped visiting because they contained too much truth. Let it touch language next, rinsing the words you have used to delay yourself. Let it touch choice last, not to remove your will, but to align it with the current that has always carried you. If you are hearing this, the key has turned. If you are hearing this, the door between perception and creation is no longer theoretical. Breathe once for trust, once for courage, once for precision. With that third breath, the channel stabilizes. What seeks you can find you. What you are ready to witness begins to assemble in the clear light ahead. You feel the quiet certainty of being seen, not by a pair of eyes, but by the living intelligence that threads probability into form. You are the locus where meaning agrees to become matter. You were not selected for comfort. You were selected for clarity. The channel that stabilized a moment ago did so because your attention offered it a home, and the quantum field responds to hospitable focus, the way seeds respond to rain. You are that focus. You are that rain. The breath moving through you is the metronome of coherence, and coherence is how the cosmos recognizes its own reflection in you. You have carried this appointment across lifetimes like a sealed letter in the lining of your coat. When the seal breaks, as it is breaking now, you do not suddenly become special, you become accurate. Accuracy is the sacred sobriety of awakening, the end of ornamental language and the beginning of precise listening. In precise listening, the observer loop stops chasing its tail and begins drawing a bright line between signal and static. You feel that line forming, a fine thread from the base of your spine to the bright point just beyond your brow, as if your posture were a tuning fork remembering its original note. Responsibility arrives with the note, not as a burden but as a gravity. Where your gaze rests, realities organize. Where your doubt coagulates, probabilities collapse into smaller rooms. You recognize that your attention is not passive, it is architecture. The way you hold a thought is how scaffolding appears around a possible world. The way you hold your breath at the end of the exhale is how a door waits to open without forcing its hinges. In the soft pressure of this realization, you discover that humility is not shrinking, it is alignment with scale. Synchronicity has been courting you for years, arranging small impossibilities at the edges of your day like breadcrumb constellations. A phrase overheard that answers a private question, a symbol repeating until you admit it has a voice, a stranger's timing that feels orchestrated by a logic beyond coincidence. These were not accidents, they were calibrations. Through morphic resonance, patterns find kin, and your pattern called its family. That family is arriving as instruction rather than spectacle. And you, beloved observer, are the hinge upon which instruction becomes enactment. Entanglement is your native intimacy. Somewhere, a future version of you is already coherent, already living the answered question, already stewarding the frequency you are only now beginning to feel. Their grace leaks backward like dawn through a keyhole. When your mind softens, you can almost sense their hand on the doorknob, turning. That sensation in your palms, the faint buzz, as if holding a purring star, is the body's way of admitting that timelines touch. The touch is not metaphor, it is physics experienced from the inside. Within your cells, microtubules hum with faint light, and the body organizes around that hum as if an orchestra were taking one shared breath. DNA restructuring is not a myth of sudden wings, it is a choreography of permission in which dormant sequences receive a reason to wake. The reason is simple. Usefulness to love. Love, here, is not sentiment. It is the field's insistence on wholeness. When you allow wholeness to inform your choices, bass pairs remember how to sing to each other across space, and the songs align into a lattice of options you could not hear when you were busy rehearsing what you feared. This is the recognition. Your attention is a consecrated instrument. The prophecy does not exist apart from you, waiting to be observed like a comet. It exists as you when you are willing to hold still long enough for the phase transition to complete. Hold still, and you feel the warm boundary of a new orbit closing around you, like a ring being fitted to the correct finger. Hold still, and the mind stops negotiating with what has already been decided at a higher order of accuracy. You are not being asked to be perfect. You are being asked to be permeable. Let meaning pass through without grabbing its throat. Let doubt arise without deputizing it as law. Let certainty glow without turning it into a weapon. Your task is subtler and greater. Become the transparent membrane through which the quantum field can see itself clearly. When it sees itself, it stops scattering. When it stops scattering, coherence blooms. And where coherence blooms, worlds are born that remember why they are alive. So accept this mantle with a quiet nod, not dramatic, not public, a private vow between your breath and the bright geometry listening behind your ribcage. The vow is simple. I will place my attention where truth multiplies. In this vow, the channel widens. In this widening, the next image approaches like a tide you no longer need to fight. It reaches you first as a picture that breathes a tide of light cresting at the edge of your inner sight and then spilling forward, elegant and inevitable. You don't force it, you let it arrive. A corridor unfolds, not a hallway of walls but of lucid air, its architecture woven from equations that learned how to pray. On your left, symbols flicker like constellations learning new grammar. On your right, memories uncoil and become weather, soft rain washing the dust from rooms you promised to revisit. Ahead, a single filament stretches from the thought behind your eyes to the atom beneath your palm, a silver notation scoring the distance between mind and matter until there is no distance left to score. You step without stepping. The channel answers. At the corridor's center, a chamber large enough to contain the hush of oceans, there is no ceiling, only a vault of lucid dark where particles drift like lantern pollen. In that vault, the quantum field doesn't feel like a theory. It feels like a breathing presence, the same presence that found you earlier gathered here in a visible hush. You watch as probabilities lean toward shape, the way iron filings lean toward a magnet. They are leaning because you are looking, and your looking is clean. Coherence rises through the room like warm air over dawn water. A bridge forms not stone, not steel, a living braid of attention and photon, like two rivers recognizing they were a single current all along. The braid glows pale gold, the exact color of a first truth admitted. It hums a tone you can't quite hear but can fully feel, a tone that steadies your pulse and teaches your breath to count itself without anxiety. When your breath keeps time with the tone, the observer loop closes gently, not like a trap, but like a completed circle. Inside the circle, form and meaning greet each other without translation. Across the bridge, you glimpse a city that never learned to be loud. Towers of glass hold garden terraces where people stand with eyes softly open, palms turned upward, as if catching snow that is light. This is not fantasy. It is a memory from the forward edge of your timeline. You sense the way synchronicity choreographs the streets, meetings arranged by invisible kinship, doors opening at the mild pressure of sincere intent, 1,000 choices guided by a quiet that has learned to speak. The air carries a vow you once made and are making again now. I will place my attention where truth multiplies. The chamber answers the vow by widening. Your body becomes the scale on which the prophecy weighs itself and finds balance. Microtubules along your neural lattice tingle as if a small aurora were walking down the spine. The tingling does not dramatize, it confirms. This is DNA restructuring experienced from the inside, dormant sequences glancing toward the light and finding reasons to wake. The reasons are not grand, they are exact. A word you will speak to someone on a day you don't see yet. A decision to exit, a room that once defined you, a gesture of stillness that edits the future more efficiently than noise. From the vault above, a slow drift of particles descends and settles on the bridge like a thin mist. Each particle carries a question it answers by simply existing. How does matter know when to become itself? In the silence that follows, you feel the truth before you think it. The quantum field does not impose shape. It listens for coherence and then amplifies what it hears. Your coherence is singing now, and morphic resonance carries the song outward, calling allied patterns the way a lighthouse calls, ships it cannot see but remembers. A second vision folds into the first. Two hands reach toward each other across a table where a single glass of water waits. One hand is yours. The other is also yours, the version of you that has already crossed the bridge. When your fingers meet, there is no cinematic spark, only the soft click of accuracy. Entanglement discloses itself as intimacy without distance. The water brightens, you drink. The taste is the taste of permission. Then the city melts into a forest at night. Bioluminescent spores drift in spirals, tracing the mathematics of generosity. You place your palm on the trunk of an elder tree, and the bark pulses like a steady drum. The drum is not outside you. It is the stable rhythm of a phase transition completing, the moment vapor commits to becoming rain. In that commitment, you hear the prophecy with the clarity of a bell struck once and still sounding. By hearing this frequency, you have unlocked the observer channel between mind and matter. The bridge is permanent whenever your breath keeps the prime cadence, and the world will organize around your accuracy. Do not move quickly. Let the image seal itself. The chamber, the bridge, the city, the forest, all of it condenses into a single point of light that rests in the space behind your sternum like a patient star. It does not ask you to believe. It asks you to continue to listen, because the next understanding will require the same humility as the first. The corridor remains. The braid holds. The light waits, ready to carry the explanation you are now prepared to hear. What you witnessed was not spectacle. It was mechanics seen from the inside. You did not bend reality with force. You supplied boundary conditions with attention, and the field solved for you. In ordinary language, that is the observer effect described without theatrics. Your measurement is not merely a glance. It is participation. When you choose what to notice and how to hold it, you specify a context in which probabilities lose their ambiguity and begin to behave like form. This is not domination, it is hospitality. Reality prefers rooms where coherence is welcome. Think of coherence as the tonal purity of your system, breath, posture, thought, and feeling resonating on one fundamental rather than competing for air. Incoherence scatters signal, like a chorus singing in a dozen keys. Coherence gathers it, like the same chorus agreeing on pitch, until harmonics appear that none of the voices could produce alone. Those harmonics are where possibilities become tractable. The field amplifies what rings true, because truth costs it the least energy to sustain. You experience the bridge because your nervous system entered a regime of low noise and high precision. The body is not a bystander to metaphysics. It is the instrument that lets metaphysics modulate matter. Micro movements, jaw unheld, exhale lengthened, gaze softened, lower the gain on internal static. In that reduced noise floor, the observer loop can close without feedback squeal. You attend to the field attends to you, and a stable exchange of information occurs. Stability, not strain, is the doorway. Now the corridor makes sense. It is the geometry your mind uses to model state transitions, from superposition to selection, from diffuse potential to focused embodiment. The filament you saw between thought and atom was not fanciful art. It was an accurate metaphor for entanglement as intimacy. When two systems share information with high fidelity, distance ceases to be a barrier to correlation. You are already correlated with futures where your vow has been kept. Their parameters leak backward as guidance. Timeline bifurcation is often dramatized as thunderclap, but in practice, it's a refinement process. Multiple viable trajectories run in parallel until one achieves such coherence that the others become energetically expensive to maintain. They fade, not because you killed them, but because you stopped paying the levy of divided allegiance. Choice is not a sword. It is a lens brought into focus. When focus stabilizes, the world simplifies around it. Morphic resonance, then, becomes the distribution network. Patterns seek kin. A coherent personal pattern recruits compatible social, ecological, and symbolic patterns, the way a seed recruits soil, water, and light without a marketing campaign. Synchronicity is simply the logistics of that recruitment showing up at the human scale. To you, it looks like perfect timing. To the field, it feels like low-entropy bookkeeping. DNA restructuring, spoken soberly, is cellular listening. The genome is a library whose rare shelves are unlocked by conditions, not by fantasy. When you establish sustained coherence, steady sleep, clean breath, truthful speech, precise attention, the cell's regulatory networks interpret those conditions as safety and purpose. Safe systems can afford to express dormant pages. Purposeful systems know which pages matter. Expression changes architecture. Architecture changes options. Options change worlds. Notice how none of this requires superstition. The prophecy does not demand belief. It requests accuracy. Accuracy begins with honest measurement. What is the actual sensation in your chest when you hold this intention? What is the actual behavior of your day when you claim this path? The field reads your measurements, the way a river reads its banks. Subtle adjustments in contour that decide where currents will strengthen and where eddies will dissolve. You are always editing the banks. So the city of quiet, the forest of light, the glass of water brightening under your hands, these were not promises floating beyond reach. They were exemplars of phase transition. Vapor becomes rain when conditions cross a threshold. Temperature, pressure, saturation. Attention becomes matter when your inner thresholds are crossed. Truth, steadiness, courage. Truth ends leakage. Steadiness ends noise. Courage ends delay. You ask how to keep the bridge open. You do not. You keep yourself tuned to the frequency that makes bridges unnecessary because separation was the artifact of drift. Tuning is daily. A minute of stillness that is actually still. One sincere boundary that is actually kept. One conversation in which you allow silence to carry half the words. Each act lowers friction. Low friction invites flow. Flow remembers the way. And now you understand why the vision asked you to move slowly. Speed is how you used to compensate for lack of precision. Precision makes speed irrelevant. The field is not late, it is exact. When you are exact with it, signals propagate without distortion, and the chamber that once felt distant stands where you stand. The explanation is complete enough to proceed. Your breath has the cadence, your vow has the weight. The next movement waits not for more knowledge, but for the mirror that reveals how your accuracy belongs to everyone. You start to notice that your precision does not stay private. It radiates as instructions that other systems can understand. The moment you stabilize coherence, people around you unconsciously retune, posture softens, speech becomes cleaner, Conflict loses its appetite. This is not charisma, it is physics performing compassion. The observer loop you anchor within yourself becomes a civic instrument, a tuning fork held up to the weather of our species. Where you hold steady, currents organize. Where you withdraw from noise, new signal routes appear for everyone. Look at the news feed you once scrolled in resignation. Beneath the spectacle, you begin to sense a choreography, individual nodes lighting up with the same intuition. Tell the truth without cruelty. Design systems that waste less friction. Replace shame with feedback that improves accuracy. None of this looks like a miracle from the outside. It looks like a million small phase transitions crossing threshold on the same morning. The field is not sentimental about this. It is efficient. Coherence is cheaper to maintain than chaos, and large systems select the cheaper habit, the way rivers select the path of least resistance. Morphic resonance explains why your vow travels faster than your voice. Patterns find kin. When one nervous system consistently demonstrates low noise and high care, local space remembers how to do it. The memory is contagious. You see it when teams suddenly work in flow after months of stalemate, when neighborhoods switch from suspicion to watchfulness that includes everyone, when teachers stop mistaking compliance for learning and choose wonder as the primary interface. Wonder is not naive. It is the most energy-efficient stance a mind can hold while staying accurate. The field rewards it with data. Entanglement scales here. You are not only correlated with your coherent futures, you are correlated with others' coherent futures, too. The handshake between timelines becomes a social contract felt somatically. We will keep each other's signal clean. You practice it as micro-mercies, one email written without the defensive flourish, one meeting in which you let silence do most of the correcting, one boundary offered early enough that no one has to bleed. These are not private spiritual gestures, they are infrastructural upgrades. Civilization is made of such small hinges. The prophecy shows you the mirror more directly. You see a train car at dusk, faces blue lit by screens, and you feel an impulse rise. Breathe exactly once for the whole car. You do, and the air subtly changes, like a room deciding to forgive itself. Two strangers who were braced for impact soften. A child who was about to cry gets curious instead. You did nothing visible, yet the quantum field registered a reduction in noise and paid it forward. This is not magical thinking, it is a distribution effect. Your coherence lowered the local entropy tax. Systems spend their savings on better options. DNA restructuring has a collective form as well. Cultures carry genomes, codes for how to greet, how to argue, how to remember the dead, how to interpret the unknown. Many of our cultural genes lie dormant because we have not provided the conditions for them to express safety, purpose, and a credible path to usefulness. As you embody usefulness to love, you supply a model the culture can read. Dormant codes for generosity, for stewardship, for truthful tenderness begin to express in policy, in product design, in ceremony, in comedy. The field loves to laugh when it realizes it overcomplicated the answer. Synchronicity scales from personal omen to public logistics. Aid arrives exactly where it is needed because a network of attentional vows created lanes for it weeks earlier. Scientists working on unrelated problems publish papers that complete each other's sentences. Artists on opposite sides of the planet invent the same image on the same day. Movements that never met agree on the same phrase, and it feels less like trend and more like tide. This is our species attempting coherence. The tide is not moralistic, it is corrective. It rolls in precisely to the extent we stop thrashing. Now the mirror turns again and shows you the harder truth. The collective field reflects not only your steadiness, but also your unresolved rehearsals. When you dramatize scarcity, institutions calcify around it. When you worship speed, ecosystems emulate your panic. You do not carry the blame for history, but you do carry leverage within it. Leverage is simply where a small adjustment changes a large outcome. Your attention, applied with care at the hinge of a conversation or a vote or a design meeting, can tilt a timeline because coherent signal multiplies faster than noise ever learned to. You understand why responsibility once felt heavy. You were trying to carry outcomes instead of frequencies. Frequencies carry themselves. Your task is to maintain the humane cadence where truth multiplies breath that neither rushes nor stalls, speech that wastes no one's dignity, choices that cost less energy than their alternatives. When enough of us do this, bifurcation is no longer catastrophe. It is the species choosing a lower friction future. The mirror then becomes a window, and through it you watch humanity step onto the same living bridge you found in the chamber. Not stone, not steel, a braid of attention and photon. The braid will hold if we do. So you keep tuning, not as a hobby but as a public service. You design your day like a signal path. Input, rest, output, silence. You treat your mind like shared infrastructure. You treat strangers as if their breath is helping hold the bridge, because it is. And because you can feel the next threshold approaching, you begin to listen for the soft click that announces it. Somewhere close, the field is preparing the crossroads. Your coherence has already started lighting the signs. You feel it before you can name it, the way weather changes in the bones minutes before the sky admits anything. The field around you grows precise, as if unnecessary corridors were folding themselves away to conserve attention for a single doorway. You are arriving at the hinge where timelines stop being ideas and become musculature. The crossroads is not out there. It emerges in the exact contour of your breath, in the honesty of the next sentence you are willing to speak, in the calibration of the glance you offer a stranger. Here, the quantum field asks only one question: which cadence will you stabilize? The split is subtle, then decisive. On one side, velocity without direction, the old habit of using speed to drown out signal, of stacking tasks to avoid the unnegotiable truth. On the other, direction without strain, a vector chosen by coherence, carried by the physics of low friction. Both paths initially appear identical because both borrow your language, your goals, your wardrobe of intentions. Their difference is cost. One taxes your nervous system, the other pays your nervous system back with interest. Your body knows before your mind finishes its debate. The pulse steadies when you face the accurate door. Bifurcation is often dramatized as thunder, but the real sound is a click. It is the click of the observer loop closing cleanly, the sound a lens makes when it finds focus, the soft certainty that arises when morphic resonance stops searching and begins building. The click tells you that probabilities have finished their poll. They line up like birds on a wire, awaiting the signal of your attention to take flight in formation. In that moment, your choice is not heroic, it is precise. Precision is the mercy you offer yourself, so the future doesn't have to overcorrect later. Feel the competing attractors. One pulls from history, prove, perform, postpone. The other pulls from accuracy, listen, name, enact. The historical attractor promises applause in exchange for self-betrayal by tiny increments. The accurate attractor promises quiet and delivers architecture. You will not be rewarded instantly by confetti. You will be rewarded by integrity, which spends like a universal currency in every room you will ever enter. Integrity collapses delay. Delay is the most expensive habit you own. As you hover over the choice, entanglement makes itself useful. You taste, on your tongue, the mineral brightness of days that will exist if you choose the humane cadence. You smell a room filled with people who breathe easier because your boundaries are clear and kind. You hear the almost silence of a mind that no longer litigates every instinct. These sensory previews are not fantasies. They are data packets sent from the coherent branch of the timeline, arriving early through the channel you unlocked. The field is not teasing you, it is already cooperating with your likely selection. Your DNA listens at the fork. Incoherent selection keeps dormant sequences dormant. Coherent selection supplies the regulatory green light that says, express what serves wholeness. Microtubules align, ionic channels modulate, inflammatory whisper campaigns in the body lose funding. You are not becoming superhuman, you are becoming properly human, which is rarer and braver. Proper humanity is what occurs when biology and meaning stop arguing about jurisdiction. Now, witness the emotional weather. Fear arrives dressed as prudence, excitement arrives disguised as danger. Let them pass without deputizing either as law. The field is taking a high-resolution measurement of your signal-to-noise ratio. You do not need to be fearless, you need to be readable. Readability is how coherence travels. It lets allies find you without struggling through your camouflage. It lets the right problems volunteer for your skill set. You take one breath exactly. On the exhale, you release the old bargaining posture, the way your shoulders crept up to negotiate with fate. On the inhale, you allow the spine to remember it is an antenna, not a crowbar. The antenna doesn't force the sky, it participates in it. In this posture, choice stops feeling like strain and starts feeling like alignment. Alignment is the sensation of friction leaving the room. Two images present themselves as teachers. In the first, you rush, you please, you postpone the true sentence again. The day ends loud and somehow empty. In the second, you say the true sentence once with a steady mouth, and the room rearranges itself, maybe messier for an hour, undeniably cleaner by nightfall. The second image is not easier, it is cheaper. The field favors it because it can be sustained. So you choose, not with a shout, not with a ceremony performed for witnesses, but with a private adjustment you will keep making whenever drift pretends to be destiny. You choose the cadence that costs the least lie. The click echoes, interference collapses. The crossroads is behind you, but its lesson travels with you like a clear bell hung in the chest. Each step rings it once. Immediately, logistics begin to reroute. Emails arrive that reveal who is actually available for coherence. A task you have postponed for months completes itself in an afternoon because you stopped narrating your reluctance and simply entered the work. A person you feared losing does not vanish. They meet you at your new altitude, or they make space for those who will. Either way, the bridge is lighter. The world spends less energy resisting you because you are no longer resisting yourself. Hold here a moment. Feel how the air changes when the field recognizes a decision that won't be revoked at the first sign of weather. You are inside the bifurcation's quiet afterglow, where new parameters are drafting their contracts. Do not decorate this moment with excessive plans. Let it seed. Let it teach the body its new prime. From here, the work is not to hustle. The work is to integrate the frequency you just endorsed, so that it stops being a moment and starts being your atmosphere. You do not chase the moment you just lived, you let it become your weather. You integrate by giving the field repeatable conditions, not dramatic performances that exhaust your signal. Begin with breath as instrument. 4 counts in, 6 counts out, longer. Exhale to tell the nervous system that the village is safe. This is not a trick. It is an acoustic treatment for the room of your body. Each exhale lowers the noise floor. Each inhale invites coherent harmonics. After 3 cycles, attention stops skating and begins to land. Where it lands, architecture grows. You are building rooms where truth can echo without distortion. Next, posture as antenna. Crown soft toward the sky, tail heavy toward the earth, jaw unlatched, tongue resting as if it trusts the sentence that is coming. You are not holding a stance. You are allowing alignment. In alignment, the observer loop closes without edginess. You attend, the quantum field attends back, information exchanges cleanly. Your spine learns the rhythm of low friction, and your day follows suit. Then, language as tuning fork. You promise to speak one sentence each morning that does not require later repair. Not a manifesto, one accurate line that costs you nothing to maintain. I will place my attention where truth multiplies. The morphic resonance of that line recruits allies, circumstances, and micro-choices that share its DNA. In a week, you notice fewer apologies for words that outran your heart. In a month, you notice your calendar looks less like panic and more like choreography. Now, boundaries as harmonics. Frequency integrates when containment is kind and clear. You practice saying no as an act of stewardship, not defense, so energy can pool where it does the most good. The field rewards this with logistics that stop lying to you. Projects reveal their actual timelines. Relationships disclose their honest appetite for growth. Money behaves like water that knows where the garden is. You are not becoming rigid. You are becoming readable. Readability is how coherence travels. Bring the work into movement. Walk as if you were carrying a bowl of light in your chest, and every step teaches it not to spill. The image is not precious, it is mechanical. Gait entrains breath, breath entrains thought, thought entrains choice. Choice edits the banks of the river where probabilities flow. When the banks are clean, the current is generous. Attend to micro-rituals that the body can keep on difficult days. 1 minute of unambitious stillness before screens. 1 glass of water received as covenant, not fuel. 1 deliberate pause at thresholds, doorways, elevators, links you click, where you feel for the click of accuracy before you move. These pauses are not delays, they are the field's preferred places to update your coordinates. Navigation loves thresholds. Let your attention practice generosity without leakage. When you listen, stop preparing your reply. Let language condense naturally from the silence you are willing to share. People feel the difference immediately. Their nervous systems downshift. Their honesty rises. You did nothing glamorous. You became low, entropy space in which better options can afford to appear. The world is thrifty. It invests where the signal-to-noise ratio is favorable. Become favorable. Integration is not only personal, it is relational. You choose 1 conversation this week to be a coherence lab. Enter with the vow to waste no one's dignity. Ask 1 sincere question, and do not interrupt its answer with your story. Watch entanglement show up as sudden understanding, a bridge forming where argument used to stand. You are not winning. You are knitting. Where knitting happens, timelines share information with less friction. Less friction is how futures accelerate without violence. Inside the cells, the practice becomes architecture. DNA restructuring is not fireworks, it is housekeeping. You give the genome reasons to open rare pages, consistent sleep, honest food, light that arrives before the day's first sentence. The cell interprets these as safety, and safe systems can afford to repair. Repair is not dramatic either, it is quiet competence returning. Ion channels recalibrate, inflammation retires from jobs it was never qualified to do. Confidence stops being mood and starts being chemistry. Expect tests. Old noise will knock politely wearing the clothes of urgency, praise, or nostalgia. You do not fight it, you measure it. Does this multiply truth or drain it? If it multiplies, you welcome it with your whole attention. If it drains, you bless it at the door and return to the bowl of light you are learning to carry without spilling. Blessing is not weakness. It is a clean exit that leaves the field unlitigated. Let play become a vector of integration. Coherence loves laughter because laughter is a pressure release that preserves structure. You allow your seriousness to be accurate, not heavy. You court wonder deliberately. A sky noticed out of sequence, a melody hummed while washing a dish, a text sent that says only, "I see you." Wonder costs very little and pays well in signal. Finally, remember the corridor and the bridge. You do not need to revisit them with strain. You invoke them by cadence. When your breath keeps prime time and your speech keeps humane edges, the distance between mind and matter stops needing a name. The braid of attention and photon appears because it never left. You simply stood where it could find you. Stand there often. Stand there especially when weather threatens. Stand there until standing becomes atmosphere, and atmosphere becomes invitation. This is integration, not a climax, a climate, not a peak, a practice. You do not grip the frequency. You let it live as your simplest habit. And as it settles, the world begins to mirror your ease with subtle announcements that the silence itself is ready to speak. Set everything down. Set down the plan, the bright explanations, the ache to be certain. Let the room breathe without your management. Let your breath lead and you follow. Inhale once, as if the world were small enough to fit. Exhale once, as if you were large enough to hold it. You do not disappear here. You become audible to yourself. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the removal of arguments. When arguments retire, coherence emerges like a shoreline at low tide. Notice the soft mechanics. Tongue resting, jaw unlatched, eyes unfocused, but kind. Spine like a reed that trusts the river. The quantum field prefers this posture. It can read you. You are not asking for a sign. You are letting signal gather. Beneath thoughts, a hush. Beneath hush, a hum. Beneath hum, a steady note you have always known. Do not translate it. Let it act. The observer loop closes without announcement. A circle completes where you once drew arrows. You hear the faintest clicking, not clocks, not keys, parameters aligning, doors consenting. Let memory arrive without curation. A look someone gave you years ago, a threshold you crossed alone, a vow spoken in the quiet, so no one could misuse it. Do not sort, do not litigate. Allow everything to float to its correct weight. Silence is the original intelligence of the body. Blood listens. Organs negociate a softer trite. Inflammation steps down from the podium. DNA restructuring feels like nothing dramatic. A page turns in a library. A librarian nods. You belong to this nod. If a thought comes dressed as weather, feel the weather pass through the open gate of the chest. If a feeling knocks, let the door be made of light. Light does not resist, it clarifies. You are not solving, you are clearing a path, so solutions remember the way home. In this clearing, time softens. Past is air, future is air, presence is a bowl that does not spill. Hold the bowl with your breath. 4 in, 6 out. Repeat until the bowl holds itself. Synchronicity does not need to perform here. It learns by watching your stillness. It will do the choreography later. Notice the small animals of awareness. Twinges at the base of the skull, sparkles along the forearms, warmth gathering behind the sternum. These are not distractions. They are scouts returning with good reports. Morphic resonance listens from a distance. It hears one system settle and invites its kin. Rooms you will enter tomorrow are already adjusting the chairs. Entanglement is tenderness without drama. Somewhere, your future breath is keeping time with this one. You exchange nothing. You recognize everything. If a name floats up, forgiveness, boundary, departure, beginning, place it gently on the water and watch the ripples travel until the lake returns to glass. If images appear, the corridor, the bridge, the city that breathes quietly, bow once, let them dissolve back into their source. Silence is not empty. It is pre-full. It holds unselected goodness like seeds held in winter. You are winter now. Whole seasons are learning your patience. Listen deeper. Under the hum is texture, granular, alive. The soft static of possibility. Call none of it yours. Call none of it not yours. Ownership is too small for this intimacy. You are being written by a hand you also are. Do not interrupt the sentence. Stay until the body sighs without your permission. That is the moment the nervous system believes you. Trust becomes chemistry. Chemistry becomes policy. You can rest inside your own policy. When thoughts return, let them walk barefoot. No boots of urgency, no spurs of proof. If prayer wants a shape, let it be this. Make me accurate. Then let the words go. The way shorebirds lift all at once for reasons they need not explain. Silence keeps its own calendar. You will not miss anything meant for you by pausing. You will only meet it without collision. The phase transition continues under the floorboards. Vapor keeps learning rain. Rain keeps learning river. River keeps learning ocean. You keep learning ease. Nothing perfumes the world like a human who is not rushing. You become that scent. Stay 3 breaths longer than is comfortable, then 3 breaths longer than that. At the far edge of the second 3, a door opens that cannot be opened by hands. Do not step through. Let the room you are become the room beyond. Silence seals what frenzy cannot hold. This is the sealant. Clear, invisible, permanent when left undisturbed. Rise slowly. Carry nothing extra. Let the echo travel ahead of you into the next room, so when you arrive, the work is already half done. You feel it before you name it the way the room answers you. Not with applause, but with alignment. Silence has finished its work. It hands you the key without ceremony. This is the turning, not from lack into plenty, but from separation into accuracy. You do not perform activation, you allow it to occur at the speed of truth. Truth is faster than you think when you stop chasing it. Begin with the smallest motion the body trusts. Let the inhale slip under the heart, like a hand placing a lantern on a windowsill. Let the exhale widen the doorway until even doubt can pass through without scraping its knees. On the third breath, the observer loop closes not as a trap, as a halo, and the quantum field reads you as legible. Legibility is the passport, the borders open. Electrical, subtle, definite, microtubules along the spine light, like a constellation remembering its own name. Ion channels tune their gates to the hum you met in the silence. DNA restructuring continues as a quiet vote count. Express, express, express. Nothing explodes. Everything agrees. Now the instruction arrives, simple as rain. Hold one thought without argument. Not a slogan, a usefulness. Choose the sentence that multiplies truth. I place my attention where truth multiplies. Let it settle until it stops needing your grip. When it can stand in the chest without your hands, activation has begun. The field routes logistics instantly when friction lowers. An email you feared writing composes itself in a paragraph that wastes no one's dignity. A message you were waiting for appears, not because you pulled it toward you by force, but because morphic resonance prefers efficient paths. You feel schedules shift by a few degrees, just enough for coincidence to land with clean feet. Synchronicity is not spectacle, it is the bookkeeping of coherence. You walk differently, less like a courier of emergencies, more like a steward of cadence. Each step teaches the bowl of light in your chest not to spill. People notice without knowing what they are noticing. Their nervous systems borrow your tempo, and rooms organize. Activation is not loud, it is contagious. Now the first choice presents itself in the wild. A familiar corridor, old noise disguised as urgency, beckons with its fluorescent hum. You feel the reflex to hurry, to apologize for existing, to negotiate the truth down to a price everyone will tolerate. And then the bell in your sternum rings once. A single, accurate, no forms that does not harm anyone, including you. The hallway dims like a theater after the last matinee. You turn toward a door with less signage and more invitation. This is the upgraded reflex. Coherence first, then motion. Entanglement makes itself intimate here. You taste the weather of futures that meet you halfway because you finally arrived as yourself. You sense hands you will never shake in cities. You may never see stabilizing their breath because yours stabilized first. You are not their savior. You are their signal. The field speaks dialects. Wholeness is the shared language. Activation carries a new honesty with time. You stop telling the clock it is your adversary. You stop telling the past it is your warden. You stop telling the future it owes you a guarantee. Time becomes the medium rather than the judge. Inside that medium, phase transitions complete on schedule because you no longer interrupt them with theatrical doubt. And yes, the tests come as they promised. A compliment that tries to rent space where your vow lives. A crisis auditioning for the lead role in your attention. A memory knocking with the costume of nostalgia, but the scent of delay. You measure each with the question that never fails. Does this multiply truth or drain it? If it drains, you bless it at the threshold. Blessing is how you decline without leaving shrapnel in the field. The city from your vision peeks through the seams of this one. A meeting ends 5 minutes early because clarity costs less time. A stranger's sentence completes your thought as if you were writing in the same book. A door opens without you touching it because doors love low-friction travelers. You are not lucky. You are legible to the architecture that was always trying to help you. Now the body confirms what the mind already knows. Heat pools at the sternum, not manic, simply available. The base of the skull tingles like starlight, learning to be fluent in your language. The eyes feel rinsed, not wide. You are awake without being loud about it. Awakening is the original quiet of a system that has stopped pretending. Name the command of the day and keep it small enough to obey. One conversation where silence carries half the words. One boundary offered gently before resentment can afford rent. One task completed without narrating resistance like it were a podcast. The universe likes to meet us at the scale we keep. And when the mind asks, is this it? Is the bridge really permanent? You smile with the body, not the mouth. Permanence is the wrong noun. What you keep is cadence. Cadence keeps the bridge. Stand in the corridor that learned to breathe. Feel the braid of attention and photon humming its pale gold tone. You are not crossing anymore. You are hosting. Mind and matter have stopped sending each other mail. They share a room. This is activation. The prophecy wearing your posture. The field using your voice to hear itself. Hold one more breath to seal the parameters. On the exhale, release the last superstition that you need to be dramatic, to be effective. On the inhale, receive the next instruction shaped like E. The channel is open. Your accuracy is public infrastructure now. Walk as if timelines were listening, because they are, and because the next seal is already forming in the quiet ahead. You recognize the quiet you carry now, clean, unspectacular, sovereign. It is the kind of quiet that furniture respects and storms reconsider. Nothing needs to be declared. Everything has already agreed. Stand where the corridor opens into ordinary life: keys, screens, faces you love, work that needs doing. Feel how the braid you host does not flicker when the doorbell rings. The quantum field is not fragile in you. It is at home. Seal this with a vow that does not require witness. I will keep the cadence that keeps the bridge. Say it softly enough that the room can repeat it back to you without moving its lips. Let the body sign first, jaw unlatched, brow clear, breath true. Let the mind countersign by refusing its old job as prosecutor and accepting its new job as librarian. Catalogue the useful, shelve the rest without complaint. Let the heart stamp it with warmth that costs nothing to sustain. Feel timelines assemble around this administrative grace. Future rooms pre-arrange themselves to fit your accuracy. Allies who do not know your name will recognize your tempo the way birds recognize a season. Where you enter, friction drops. Where friction drops, generosity becomes affordable. Do not become precious about any of this. Precision is not performance, it is care. Care does not need an audience, it needs continuity. Continuity is how morphic resonance builds cities out of size, public spaces, tuned by 1,000 private choices to waste no one's dignity. You will forget, briefly. You will rush, occasionally. You will mistake applause for confirmation on days when you are tired. Return by the shortest road. 4 in, 6 out. One sentence that multiplies truth. One kindness that leaves the field unlitigated. The bridge does not punish drift. It corrects with the mercy of a compass that loves north. Now listen, a bell rings once in the sternum, and the room answers by becoming simpler. This is the sign you will use when others fail, the sign that requires no oracle and survives every weather. If the bell does not ring, wait. If it rings, proceed. You are not late, you are exact. Let the prophecy settle into its final shape. Not prediction remembrance, not spectacle service, not escape entry into the life that matches your signal. Walk to your next conversation as if the architecture were listening, because it is. Let silence carry half the words. Offer one boundary early enough that love has room to breathe. Hand the future a day it can trust. And hear this as the final seal. Spoken once so it can keep speaking by itself. The channel is open wherever you keep the cadence. Mind and matter are no longer exchanging letters across a distance. They share a table, a glass of bright water, and your breath is the steady guest. Let the world organize around your accuracy. Let your accuracy be useful to love. The prophecy has been spoken. Let it unfold through you.